Hey guys, this is Guy from iTunes HQ. Hope everybody's doing good, staying safe. It's been a while. Karu's been taking over YouTube mostly, but I'm happy to be back with you. And today I will be talking about one of the most difficult aspects of the tennis game, which is actually closing out matches. This is one of the reasons why tennis is so difficult. It's not like basketball where you can just hold on to the ball and just wait for the game to end. It's not like soccer where you can just pass among your teammates and wait for the clock to run out. In tennis, you actually got to go out there and you got to close the match. You have to win the last point. There's no time limit. There's no clock that is running in your favor. You got to go out there and you got to win the last point. Otherwise, you're going to lose. Whether you want to call it wasting a lead or playing out choking, this happens at every level of the sport. You can see several examples. Federer wasting 2 match points in the Wimbledon final against Djokovic. He also wasted another 2 match points against Djokovic in the US Open. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 years in a row in the semifinals. That could have given him other titles. Alex Zverev was leading Dominic Thiem in his first ever Grand Slam final. And you can see examples over and over repeating themselves. The 2 guys that don't go through that a lot are Djokovic and Nadal, because they're just at a different level emotionally. But besides that, the pros do it, amateurs do it, college players do it. So it's something that we all, as a tennis world, need to work on. So today we'll be going through some concrete steps you can take to take your closing game to the whole next level. Also, I just really wanted to appreciate the support everybody has been giving us. We've seen some crazy growth within the last few months. Karu has been working extremely hard to put out some good content for you. So I really appreciate you subscribing and letting us know the things you do like and the things you don't like. If you haven't subscribed yet, I ask you that you please do, and make sure you're letting us know what things you like and what things you don't like, because ultimately we really just want to make this channel a very useful resource for you, for whether you're an amateur, whether you're a college player, whether you're a junior, and we just want to put out things that are going to be good for you. So let us know. We'll try to work on it, and yeah, we really appreciate the support. We always drop a link below in our comments if you'd like to support our channel and you were planning already on buying something on Amazon or Tennis Warehouse. You can just use our links. There's no extra cost to you, and we get a little bit for it. So great way to support our channel. So the first step you need to work on when trying to close out more matches is identifying what happens in those moments where you're either serving for a match, where you got a match point, you got a big lead, and then things go downhill from there. That may be that you're rushing the points, you're not being as consistent as you are in the rest of the match, maybe because of nerves, maybe because you're tired. It may be that you're becoming too passive and you're not going for shots enough. So every player has a different issue in those moments, but they're usually the same issue that keeps repeating itself. So you need to identify what's going on. Why are you playing differently than you usually do? Personally, in my case, is because I always try to rush the points too much. I just got so euphoric. I just really wanted to close out the match. You may be able to identify with this. 4-4 in the third set. You go and you suddenly break your opponent, and it's awesome. You're just like, oh, I got this in the bag. And you go and you sit down and change over. You just open your water bottle. You're just shaking. You're just so just ecstatic. You're just like, all right, I got this in the bag. And you just keep picturing, you're going to the net and you're shaking your opponent's hands, and you're planning on what you're going to tell him. And if you're in college, you're just picturing all your teammates rushing the court and celebrating with you. And then you go out there and you make a double fault, hit a shot at the bottom of the net, and then you're down love 30 and you start getting desperate. So the reason why that happened was I always got so ecstatic to close out the match, then I did not stick to my game plan. I try to rush points too early. I try to go for the lines, and that made me make more errors. And consequently, that just made me less confident in myself, which made me rush even more. And then the next thing you know, the match was over and my lead was gone. And I would be stuck thinking about that match for weeks after that. There was one specific match I still remember today. We were playing against the University of Tulsa, and they had just beaten USC, who was #1 in the country, the day before. And we were playing a tight match. I was playing a good opponent, and I lost the first set 6-3, and then I won 6-1, and I was up 4-0, And I was just thinking, oh man, I'm gonna get such a good ranking after this, and it's gonna be such a great win. And I started rushing points, and just changeover after changeover, I just blanked out, started making a lot of mistakes, going for shots I didn't need to go. And the next thing I knew, I had lost 6-4, and our team lost, and I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I felt like it was my responsibility. So that was something that made me stop and think about what I was doing wrong in those scenarios. On a basic level, whenever these situations happen, it usually comes down to a lack of planning and a lack of discipline, which are usually caused by too much excitement and too much thinking about the act of actually winning the game. But it's very important for you to identify what's going on at that time. If you're rushing, if you're becoming too passive, if you're making poor shot selection. So when you do understand what's happening in your case, you can go on and move on to the next step, which is to actually develop a game plan for those situations. So what worked for me was to have a set game plan that I knew I could count on whenever it came down to serving out for a match. This game plan needs to be very specific, and it needs to be repeatable, and it needs to be measurable. So essentially, you want to decide where you're going to serve, where you're going to hit the next shot in the first point, where you're going to serve in the second point, where you're going to hit the next shot in the next point, how many shots you're going to hit, and how many shots you're going to go for. If you're becoming too passive, you might want to decide that you're going to have to hit a winner before 3 shots. If you're rushing for shots, you may want to think, I am going to make every ball possible. I'm going to make 8 shots before you try to go for a winner in every point in that last game. But by having these specific goals for every point, you'll be able to rely on that game plan. When you sit down in that changeover at a 5-4, at a 6-5, you will not have that desperation of what do I do now to close out the match. You will know exactly, you will have a blueprint of what that last game is going to look like. So you'll know when you sit down in that changeover, you just need to focus on whatever you're going to do next. And when you're coming up with a game plan, you should focus on your bread-winning shots. In my case, for instance, when I was serving on the left side, I knew that I have a good kick serve, which gives me margins, and that would usually return a shot to my inside-out forehand. So just think about what shots you're the most comfortable with, the shots that even in a pretty nervous situation, you'll still be able to make them, and work on a game plan around those shots. The third step to becoming a better closer is to actually go out there and practice your game plan and start tweaking it accordingly. You can't just think about something and expect that it's going to work at the 5-4. So I suggest that you go on the court, you get on the court, and you literally practice what your final game is going to look like when you're serving out for a match. You just keep going over and over, so you become extremely comfortable whenever that time comes, and you'll be able to repeat it time after time. It's definitely worked out for me. I became a much better closer, and I do think that by doing that, you'll be more confident when the time comes. And the good thing is you just keep building on it. So you do it, and then it works once, and you feel, oh great, I'm going to try it again. And then it works the second time, it works the third time. And then the last thing you know, you're just considering yourself a very clutch player. Some extra tips to close out matches are, 1, first serves are extremely important. I suggest that when you're trying to close out a match, you don't go full out for an ace. You go for 80% serves, 85% serves that you're working that allow you to still stay in an aggressive stance, but that will give you a better margins. Because if you miss too many first serves, that's going to give your opponent an opportunity to attack and play loose. And a lot of times players are just they have just given up, and the last thing you want to do is give them an opportunity to slap a shot and hit a winner, and then they're suddenly like, oh, I got an extra life on me, maybe I'll just hit 4 winners and break the game. And so working with first serves is extremely important. The second tip is to focus on rituals. So besides having a game plan for yourself, it's actually very important to have rituals that you're working on outside the point. So whether that's going to your towel, whether that's bouncing the ball 6, 7 times, whether that's tying your shoelaces, whatever it is. Obviously, you want to be respectful of your opponent, but by having those rituals, you'll be able to develop habits and you keep repeating them over and over, and that's just going to trigger the right emotions, the right feelings in your head when the time comes to repeat that game plan you've developed. The third tip is to actually focus on high margin shots. So while it's great to end up the match with a winner, a forehand winner, or go to the net and hit that huge overhead that bounces off the court, I would say that it's much safer and much more successful to focus on high margin shots. So shots that are staying away from the lines, playing through the middle is a great option, both on your serve and returning during the points. That's going to push your opponent back and finally land you a short ball, and then you can go for that winner. But you know, keeping those margins high is a great way to successfully close out a match. And you may be thinking, oh, what if I have a whole game plan that I've come up with, that I've been playing against this opponent that has a really bad forehand, and I've been going to his forehand? Am I supposed to change up my game just in this final game just to close out the match? I say that you need to assess the situation, because if there's a clear pattern that you've been working on and it's been working throughout the match, and you know your opponent's just breaking down, you definitely want to stick to that for the last game and be disciplined, but keep doing it over and over. But if you've been just playing well, you just have kind of a loose strategy against your opponent, I would suggest that you actually stick to your game plan, the one that the closing game plan that you have for yourself, because at 5-4 in the third set is not that much about your opponent but about yourself, especially if you're serving. It comes down to your ability of closing out the match. So I think it comes down to you. You have to assess the situation, but those are definitely some things that you need to consider. If you want to learn more about some other tips that we have, you can watch this really cool video Carew made when he's practicing against the number 73 in the world, Marcus Giron. You can just watch the video here, and he goes on, he has some commentary there. He goes on about what they're working on, especially during the match play. That's very valuable information. People have been enjoying that a lot. You can also check our website. We got plenty of articles with very instructional information, so you can check that out. But otherwise, I really appreciate you guys, and once again, let us know in the comments if there's anything you want us to work on.